So in this topic, what we're learning is nanotechnology. So a nanometer is 1,000,000,000 times smaller than a meter. Okay, so these are extremely small particles. Now, in your exam, you need to know the range of the study of nanoscience, and the range that you need to be aware of is 1 to 100 nanometers. Okay, so 1 to 100 nanometers. Now, why are we interested in this nanoscience? Well, it turns out, and the reason for this isn't completely understood, that nanoscaled particles have different properties from the larger scale particles. For example, silver, nanoscale silver. I'm sorry if you can hear my girls in the background laughing, they're upstairs playing. But nanoscale silver has a different property to the larger silver, which is it has antiviral, antibacterial, and antifungal properties. Okay, so that's an advantage of nanoscale particles, is the actual properties are different to their larger scale. As I said, don't 100% know why this is, and one disadvantage to that is the long-term effects are not known. Okay, so there are lots of things that, oh God, my girls are running down. Hang on a second. Oh, sorry about that. Okay, so it's nanoscale silver then. It is widely used. So as I said, because it has antibacterial, antiviral, antifungal properties, is used in a lot of medical equipment for cleaning and ensuring that surfaces are clean before and after operations. It's also used in plasters, antiseptic sprays, in refrigerator linings to obviously prevent bacteria growing in them, socks, deodorants. And the other day I was watching an advert where I saw a mattress actually had nanoscale silver in the mattress to stop any bacteria or fungus growing within the mattress. So there you can see that's a lovely picture there of a fungal infection. So if you have nanoscale silver embedded within a sock, that would help people, or it would prevent or get rid of athlete's foot. Again, as I said, you've got it's put in refrigerator linings in a certain part of the refrigerator, just to kill bacteria, obviously to prevent things like food poisoning in hospitals and so on. The other nanoscale particle that you need to be aware of is nano-sized titanium dioxide. Okay, so these particles are used in sun protectors, so in sun creams and sunscreens. What happens is they absorb and reflect UV light. That UV light is dangerous to our skin cells and can cause cancer. So they actually reflect that. What the advantage is for titanium dioxide is that it's transparent, because nobody wants to walk around in sunscreen that's well, unless you're a child maybe, that's completely blue or pink or what have you. So because it's transparent, then it's more appealing to customers. Bit of a lag now on my computer. Watch it jump a few slides now. Why is this not working now? Okay, so the other use for titanium dioxide is self-cleaning windows. So they catalyze the breakdown of dirt, and in the presence of UV light, they will cause the water to spread out in a thin film. Okay, now I know that all of you probably all seen when you clean windows, there's smear or you can actually see watermarks, but this actually stops it, and there's titanium dioxide on the surface then of glass to prevent them smearing, and they're called self-cleaning windows. All sounds good, which is, you know, great. All sounds like they're a major benefit to us, but there are some potential risks. One risk is that because the particles are so small, it's so easy for them to be absorbed into our skin, or to be breathed into our lungs, or to travel through our water supply or atmosphere. And because the long-term effects are not known, we don't actually know at this stage whether that is going to be a risk to us in future. Now, another use for nanoparticles is data collection. And what actually happens is tiny little sensors can be placed in products or clothes, or even in our body, that can monitor our movements, monitor what we're buying, or monitoring certain health information. Now, I was asked once, well, the store, if we were thinking about monitoring people's movements around a store, you could actually use this technology for stock control. Now, obviously, a supermarket knows how many products it's sold and how many it's purchased. What it doesn't know is how many of its customers want to buy a product that's sold out. So say, for example, I always find around Easter time, Easter eggs, not so much this year, but Easter eggs run out. And if I went to that aisle, that shopkeeper doesn't actually know that I've gone there. Had there been Easter eggs there, I could have purchased it, and he'd be able to stock control that way. But as soon as you've run out, he doesn't actually know, or the supermarkets don't know, what stock to get in or how much stock to get in. Okay, so they can place little tiny monitors in the baskets or in the trolleys that actually monitor your movements around the store. So if you were to go to the aisle, okay, and there was nothing there, they would know that you, as that customer, were interested in purchasing an item on that aisle. Not the best of examples, but it's just one that, you know, just makes you think that they can monitor your movements within a store without you even knowing. Okay. Now, that obviously brings some ethical issues into it. Is it ethical for a supermarket to monitor your activity in a store without your consent? Okay, do you actually want the government or supermarkets knowing what your buying habits are, what your movements are? Okay, and then there's that other issue then of it going against your right to privacy. You might want to purchase something that you don't want supermarkets to know that you're purchasing. Okay, you might not actually go through with the purchase, but you might be interested in looking at it. It could be sanitary products, any kind of, personal items that you might be interested in, but you don't actually want to purchase, but you are interested in that product. Do you want the government or shopping companies to know your movements within that store? Okay, so in the exam, you need to come up with a balanced argument for and against the use of nanoparticles. So you need to know some advantages, you need to know some disadvantages for their use. You've got to remember the difference between a use and a property. And people seem to forget that, or they'll talk about one and not the other. A use is what they're actually used for. For example, nanoscale silver is used as an antiseptic in sprays, in plasters, it's used in socks. Its properties, however, is the fact that it is antiviral, antibacterial, and antifungal. So there is a distinct difference between a use and a property, and you just need to remember that. Oh, there we go. Just a little interesting fact for you for the end of this session. So, if a nanoparticle was the size of a football, then a chicken would be the size of an earth. Okay, so you can see in relation how small those nanoparticles actually are. Now, I hope that this has helped you with the tasks that you've been set this week. If you've got any questions, please get in contact with me via Google Classroom. I do apologise. I know it's not the best video, but it's the best I can do with the technology I've got under the circumstances. Stay safe, guys, and I'll see you soon.